I have had a real struggle with my mental health and checked myself into a hospital in 2016 and was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder after thinking that I just had clinical depression for years and years and years. So I was incorrectly medicated for years and years and years. And when I got out of the hospital, I kind of dedicated the rest of my life to being a voice and an advocate because there's so much shame and stigma around bipolar disorder. Once you know how to manage something, you feel pretty awesome when you are managing it. You're like, I'm doing pretty good. Having control over your own stories, I think eventually falls into a lot of actors' minds. They want to tell their own stories. And so I started with a short because it was manageable to me and it was a proof of concept for the feature, which I hope to create. It's been hard for me because a couple of years ago, I was booking a lot of television and film, and I was at the top of my game. I was very lucky, especially in Utah, to be working so much. And then to go from that to, I did film one feature film this year, and it was a really fun one. But I was really, you have to have a thick skin, and I was really hurt by this one that I didn't get. Especially over and over and over again, if you're not booking the part, it can take a hit on your self-esteem. And that's where I think constant coaching has really helped me stay in it. There are so many actors who eventually stop doing this because they can't stomach the rejection. There's so much rejection. I think artists feel deeply or allow themselves to feel deeply, and maybe that can get out of control. I don't know. I remember going up to the stage, you had already talked, and I just had to grab your shirt and say, let's talk after. I didn't want you to leave. It was like a female filmmaker, that's always hard to say, who is also a coach. Are you kidding me? Yes. That's why I pulled you aside. I'm a huge mental health advocate, and coaching has been one of the main tools that have helped me manage my own mental health. And it was through listening to a podcast that I discovered coaching. You allowed me to go through your program, and I loved your approach. And I love, they have a concept called holding space. It's just a very non-judgmental, get your thoughts out and let's explore your thoughts. And I feel like you were really good at that. I remember it's like, how's your financial life? How are your relationships? How is your creativity? All these things. There's so many different facets of your life that it's nice to have a program to kind of focus on one thing at a time. And it's really when you understand that your thoughts are at the root of everything. Your emotions are caused by your thoughts, not by your circumstances. And when you can start to manage your brain that way, the results in your life change astronomically. I knew how to actually change my thinking through coaching. With my particular illness, I have to be at a base level to apply the tools, because I would hear them and like sometimes I felt like, oh, like intellectually it made a lot of sense, but I couldn't necessarily apply it until I got it a good baseline. And once I was able to actually apply, my life just basically it's going into emotional adulthood instead of emotional childhood. You just get a lot more mature with owning up to life and not blaming people. That's the main difference. You don't blame anyone for anything but yourself. And then even then you're gentle with yourself. You're like, oh, I'm a human. Like, I would think that thing, but is that useful? You really examine your thoughts. Like, is that a useful thought? And if it's not, then you're able to explore different ones that are. Some people think it's automatically changing a negative thought to a positive thought, and you can do that if it feels good and if it feels right, but if it feels false, you don't do that. You kind of ladder it. Like, it's possible, and you wiggle. It's always about wiggling those unuseful thoughts. That's why having a coach is good too, to remind you, because it's easy to say, oh, I'll just think this new thought. But having someone check in on you, oh, for me anyways, so helpful. And it doesn't mean that everything is butterflies and roses all the time either. Like, oh, I've got coaching, now everything's good. It's knowing how to manage your mind around hard things. I just feel like the tools in coaching helped me manage my brain so much better. It changed my life.